Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on Keen. In this video, we'll discuss on how to install Keen on Keen's version 1.4.2 and above. First thing you need to do to install Keen is to purchase and download Keen. To do that, we need to navigate to Bootstrap's marketplace, which is go to getbootstrapped.com and you navigate to themes. And in there, you just have to scroll down a little bit and you find Keen right here. Click on it and you have the option to purchase or preview it. Once you've purchased it and downloaded Keen's package, it will look something like this, and then all you have to do is just unzip it into your computer. And once you've done that, inside Keen 1.4.2, you'll see three main folders: the design, doc, and theme. In design is where we keep our sketch file. In docs is where we have the official documentation, which is usually where you should start off. And in theme, we have our Keen demos. So before we get into demos, let's look into our documentation. Go to docs and you can either start with index.html or you can go straight into docs.html, which brings you straight to the documentation portion. So in here, we will discuss on how we can install Keen, version 1.4.2 and above, using Gulp. We will have another separate video on how you can install Keen with Webpack. So in a quick start, we have our step-by-step, 1 to 8, and further down a little bit in the menu, you have build tools, and then you have another option called Gulp, where we discuss a little bit further about the build config. You will get to that part of the video shortly, but for now, let's just run through the quick start and see how we can quickly and easily deploy or install Keen. So number one is we need to purchase and download the theme, and then download and install Node.js. Click that, and you have the option to either install it on your Windows or Mac. Go ahead and do that. And once that's done, we need to navigate to the tools folder for each demo. So if you look into our theme, we have 6 demos at the moment. And each demo is individually packed to be its own individual project. So if you go to demo 1, you have our source and our tools folder. And if you go to demo 2, you have the exact same thing. So if you want to work on the demo 1 and demo 1 only, you just have to worry about demo 1. So how do you know what demo and how each demo looks like? You actually go to our official website or just go to our official documentation. Just browse through our demos here. Like, for example, the default demo is demo 1, and this is demo 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are other demos coming soon, so keep an eye on that. So now that in this example, let's choose demo 1 as the demo that we want to work on for our project. What we do is you go into demo 1 and we go into the tools. And after that, once we're in the tools, if you look into what we need to do next, is we need to install Npm and Yarn. So let's go ahead and install our Npm and Yarn. Let's go into our folder, go to our theme, go to our demo 1, go to our tools, and then type in cmd here. Open up our command prompt. If you're using Macs, you need to use your terminal, and then navigate to the tools folder. And once you're in here, we need to then install Npm and Yarn. However, if you have already installed this too, you don't really need to do any of this. Since I've already installed them, so let's go ahead and just run Yarn. And what Yarn does is just downloading and installing, or basically deploying all of Keen's third-party assets and dependencies or plugins into the Node modules. Alright, we've done installing Yarn. Done running Yarn. The next thing we need to do is we need to run Gulp build. What this does, it builds the demo. So let's go ahead and run that. So as it's building, if we look into our demo1 folder, you see a dist folder appears. And what's within the dist folder is actually all of Keen's assets and HTML files. And what you can do here is you can just like double click it to open it and view Keen's demo1. You can then go browse into your other stuff within the page, like you can look out alerts, the buttons, and whatnot. So that's pretty much it. This is a very simple and quick way on how you can install Keen from version 1.4.2 and above. And what it does here is just deploys or builds and deploys the demo. So for example, if you want to use another demo, like you want to use demo 2, for example, like you want, okay, let's say demo 3, for example. So what you have to do is you just have to go to Keen's theme folder, select the demo that you want, go into it, go into the tools, and open up your command prompt within the tools folder. Run yarn, because since you have already installed npm and yarn, just run it. And once you've done running yarn, you just have to type in Gulp build, and that's it. That is a very quick, surefire way where you can view Keen's demo and also use Keen's demo for your project. But of course, there are a lot more things that we can configure within Keen before we even start building it. So let's go ahead and have a look into our documentation. So in here, we'll discuss on how do you customize and read Keen's build config file. So where exactly are Keen build config files? They are basically located within the tools. And if you go into it, so it's currently building. Demo 3 is still currently. Let's go back to demo 1 just so that save some time here. So you go into tools and you see this file here, gulp.config.json. This is Keen's Gulp config file. Let's open it with our IDE. Go to Steam, demo1, tools, and this file. So in here, you will see a few things. First thing, let's just minimize this, is we have two main fields. Like, of course, the name and version, they are just descriptive. And we have two main fields, which is the config and build. So imagine Keen's Gulp config file as an index for your plugins or your dependencies, and also your how you want to bundle up your SAS files, bundle up your JS files, stuff like that. So if you think of the build config file as the index of the entire demo, so when you have that in mind, we can go ahead and look into our config. And in our config is basically we have a demo field here, which we can leave it blank for now because we already are building Keen's demo based on the demo folder itself. And then we have a debug field where debug is basically when you turn this on, when you run Gulp build, it just gives you more information or more descriptive text as Keen is building. And then we have the compile field where we have RTL, uglify, minify, and source message on. And what this does is it just lists down the items that you want to compile along with your build or in your build. So if you enable RTL, basically you're going to build RTL versions of Keen's demo. So for example, it's turned on, it's true by default. So in that case, if we have that idea in mind, if we look into our disk of demo 1, because we've already built demo 1, if you go to assets and we go to select any of the CSS, you notice there is a RTL and a normal non-RTL CSS file built. So this is essentially what this means. If you do not need RTL, you can you're free to go ahead and change this to false, and it will not compile it. And this is just a list of plugins that we'll be skipping for the RTL deployment. The reason why we're skipping all this by default is because most of these plugins do not have an RTL compatibility, or it does not really need one. For example, if you look at this font awesome and flat icons, they are basically just icons. It doesn't really matter whether it's left to right or right to left. It's icons. So we don't really need to have all these plugins or dependencies within our RTL version. And then all this is just to turn on or off your Uglify or Minify, or even CSS or JS source maps. If you need it, just turn it on, just set it to true. If you don't need it, just leave it as false. Now the path is where this index or this build config file will receive or get where all these source files are. So we're just defining in the source, we're just defining where the source assets folder is, and it's in the source and assets, so everything in here. The Gulp will basically read through this list or list of files, and then do the necessary, and then bundle everything up, compile from SAS to CSS, and then deploy it to the destination. Now, where's the destination? It's basically here. So this path here is one of the most important paths that you should take note. The reason is the destination can literally be anywhere within your computer. At the moment, by default, it's just deploying to this folder in the project demo folder itself. So if you minimize this, so what it does is it compiles and bundles everything that's within the build that we're going to discuss shortly into this assets folder. Everything from the source, from the node modules, and anything that we need from our API will be bundled up, or basically compiled, bundled, and deployed into this folder right here. So again, node modules and demo API is basically just to define where those folders are. The node modules is just saying that, oh, hey, look at it, we need node modules folder from here. We need to grab whatever we need, bundle it up, compile it, and then deploy it to our destination. The demo API URL is basically for certain plugins or certain functions or elements within Keen that requires maybe some server-side callbacks, like maybe our data table within Keen needs some data that needs to be retrieved from our server, just as a demonstration. So this is just to define what where that location is. You don't really need to edit the demo API. You can just leave it as it is, because this is just to make the demo work. That's done with config. Let's move ahead to build. Now, in build, we have a few options here. We have our plugins, our theme, and media. So in plugins is basically where we defined all of Keen's third-party plugins, all of it. So all of plugins will be listed in here, or vendor plugins will be listed here. Theme is where we put in our styling or our own Keen JS files and customization. And media is where we keep or where we define where all the source media files are coming from and where do we deploy it to. So if you look in here, we can see that the source is in the source path and media, which is equal to source and then assets and then media. So everything will be there. So you go to blocks, all the images right here. And then where do we put it? And we're just going to put it in the dist media folder. So where's that? It's in the dist assets, optimize this, and media. So it's just taking the stuff from the source and then putting it to the destination. Now the reason why this is happening is because, remember what we mentioned here, the destination of your assets destination can be literally anywhere. So what we usually recommend to all of our clients or all of our customers is, when you're building a project, you do not build your project within Keen's demo file itself. You use Keen more like a companion where you can actually browse keen, for example, this browse keen, and then say you want to grab something from here, like you want accordions from keen. So you say you want a default accordion like this, browse keen, see the elements that you want, and then you take it out from keen and you put it into your project. So your project folder will always be a separate entity compared to Keen's demo. So Keen's demo is basically a companion where you just look, you select the elements you want, you locate it, and they pull it out. And when you pull it out, or when you pull it out to your project, sometimes you want to customize it. But in order to customize it, you can actually customize it in Keen's demos first. And once you've done that, and you deploy, or when you've done your customization, you save your customization within Keen's demo, and then you want to deploy your changes into your project. To do that, you just have to change this, and you deploy all of Keen's assets bundle, or all the assets bundled up into a nice organized manner, and it'll be fully utilized or fully capable to be referred to or included within your project folder. We'll get into this in a lot more detail in another video. So let's go ahead and resume this, and let's look at our theme first before we get into plugins, because plugins is going to be quite large. In theme, we have a few options here. We have our base, skins, and pages. So base basically says that, okay, for this demo, where's the main style assets of this demo? So just defining here, and where are the scripts for this demo, and then how do we bundle it? So we grab the style.sas. If you go into, let's minimize this and go to source, and then assets, and then sas, and then it's style. So it's basically defining that, okay, we need to import the config, the global layout config, Bootstrap, other global includes, and other layout config files, and also the other layout includes. For example, like we have our base, our header, our top bar, and etc. So everything that you want to customize for your project within Keen. For example, you want to change certain colors, like you want to use demo 1 as the base, like you like this structure. Okay, you like this structure, like the menus on the left, you have a top bar here and whatnot, but you want to change the colors. So to do that, you just have to just go into the config, run to your states, so the states, and then change the colors like here. And what you do is you just run Gulp build again, but then you change your destination so that you'll be placed into your project immediately. So that's this two, style and scripts. So scripts is basically in the same place. It's in assets, source assets, JS, and all these things here. Like you have your global components, all of this here. You have your layouts here. All of this will be bundled up into a single file called scripts.bundle.js, and your style will be bundled up into also a single file called style.bundle.css. Let's have a look at where it's going, where it's deployed to. If you go to our dist, which is our deployment destination, you go to our CSS, we see style.bundle.css, and we have an RTL because we set RTL to true. If you look into here, what we see is we see our Keen's CSS file, or basically bundle CSS file, using all of our Sass files, or Sass includes. So if you go back to this is basically this entire thing, and of course from this entire thing we're getting all the different things from like our mix-ins, our functions, our inits and includes, and so on and so forth. So our JS will also be deployed to our JS and scripts.bundle. Yes, so we have our KT app, our function, Webpack supports, and avatar, and so on. So this is the concept that we have for our build config or gulp config file. We have basically like an index where you have a field where you define all the styles that you want, and another field that you can define all the scripts that you want that is packed under the source field. And then what it does is it'll grab all this and then bundle it up to its wherever you want it to bundle it, wherever you want it to go. So if you look at skins, it has similar layout or similar structure where you have a source and then defining the styles. So skins is basically different color schemes for demo 1. So if you look in demo 1, your dashboard, you see you have a few different color schemes. You have our navy side, which is this color here. Then we have a brand side, which changes the colors to lighter blue. And then we have this layout where the top bar is actually dark, and then the sidebar is actually white. And then all this is now all white, have brand header. So this is basically how Keen defines the skin. The layout is still considered one, but it's just different colors. So because of that, you just need the source files to be included and where does it go to. And that's pretty much it for skins. Let's go to pages. Similar, there are some pages that require some SAS and JS files, like customize some pages. So if you look at our SAS and we go to pages, you can see that the pages that need further SAS customization or further styling or further JS customization, it's listed here. So for example, if you go to our wizards, so we have a wizard 1, and how it looks like here is pages with a wizards 1. This entire element here is the element that we're trying to customize further. So what it does here is just grabs everything from this folder and everything, all the JS files, so from the pages folder, and then deploy it to its own individual pages. So let's look at where it's deploying to. Let's go to dist, CSS, pages, and if you open that, you see all that. Or you go on wizards, you see all the wizards. So wizards 1 to 3 with RTL options. Yes, your pages go to custom, then you go wizards, and you see 1 to 3 here. Alright. Themes done. Let's look at plugins. So plugins, as mentioned earlier, they are basically Keen's third-party vendors. Vendors like Bootstrap, jQuery, and so on. They're all parked under plugins. Now, plugins, we have two options or two types. We have a base and custom. So let's look at base first. In base, we have mandatory and optional plugins. Mandatory is, this too is basically pretty self-explanatory. Mandatory are plugins that Keen needs. If you remove any one of these mandatory plugins, Keen will probably not work properly. And optional are plugins that you can remove, and it's not, it's optional. So if your project does not require like a date picker or maybe a time picker, you can just go ahead and remove it like that, like so. And once you run Gulp build, it will bundle everything up, but without that plugin you just remove. So again, similar format or similar concept with what we discussed earlier. We have our source, where we define all of our source plugins. That is split into either scripts or styles, or some of it may even have media. So let's see one has media. Like this. This is one of the media that we're talking about. We have some plugins include fonts, and some plugins include images. So It depends on your plugin. If your plugin does have all these additional assets, you just declare it as it is. And what it does is to grab all of this here, all of this, everything within the mandatory fields or the optional field, and bundle it up as individual bundle files. Those all the mandatory plugins will be under plugins.bundle.css, and the scripts will go under plugins.bundle.js. Then same goes with the images and fonts. It will just bundle it up, or basically put it into its relevant folders within the plugin folder in the destination path. Similar with the custom. Custom is a little bit different than mandatory is because mandatory basically bundles up everything that needs to be used for Keen into one single file. However, custom plugins are bundled up into its own individual bundle file. So like if you look at this, jQuery UI is bundled up into its own jQuery UI bundle. Now the reason for that is because it's optional, it may not be needed for every page within the demo. So in that sense, this mandatory is technically like the global bundle, and this will be the optional plugin bundle where on a certain page that requires a jQuery UI, then we include this bundle file. If the page doesn't need jQuery UI, we don't include it, and it's as simple as that. The reason why we do it, we split it up this way is because to make your project more optimized, so that we don't include like all of these really large plugins into the global plugin bundle and not bloat it up. Because some plugins here, like for example, look at the full calendar, is actually bundling a lot of files together. If you scroll down a bit, we can see our data table is actually bundling a lot of things. So our bundle file may get a little large and may slow down your page loads. So we only load it up on the pages that absolutely needs it. So in this sense, if you want to add your own plugin, you can just always just put a comma, type in your plugin name like so, and then follow the format, which is the source, where the styles and scripts are coming from, and then the bundle where it's supposed to go to once it's bundled up. Right. So that is pretty much it. And if you look into our documentation again, if you need more info on Keen's Gulp installation or Keen's Gulp config, and also in our documentation, you can also run certain Gulp shortcuts. So what we did is we did a Gulp build, just Gulp build, which is the default where it runs everything that the config declares. But there are other ways to run Gulp build. So if you look into our official documentation and look under build tasks, you can see that this is the default way of building Keen using Gulp. But you can also set your shortcut to not have RTL, which is essentially turning this to false. So it's a shortcut to do that. And we have other shortcuts that's available within Keen. For example, you can only build JS files, or just build Sass files, or CSS files, or just build your media, or run a production compile, a production deployment. What this means is it's just going to minify your JS and CSS files, which is essentially, if you look at this, these two options here, it's just turning these two on. And then you can also set your watch, and what watch does is if you make any change within your project, Gulp will automatically render or basically compile and deploy a new version or a new build into your assets folder. And of course, if you need Keen to be running on a localhost environment, then you can just run Gulp localhost or just use your own localhost environment, like maybe XAMPP or WAMP. And that's pretty much it for Keen. We'll have another video on Keen's Webpack. The link will be in the description and also in the cards. If your project's working on Webpack, then feel free to use that. So I hope you found this video informative. Please subscribe to our YouTube video so that when we release any new videos, you get an update. And also follow us on our social media like Twitter and Facebook and so on. Links will all be in the description below. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.